Well, it's official, darlings. Our boy's death warrant has been signed. Boo, boo. And when that happened, I saw something incredible. Something that made me pause in the middle of doing the dishes and write this script.
People responded to Trump ordering the death penalty by smashing the donate button like it owed them money.
And when I saw that, all these memories came rushing back to me. Memories of getting yelled at by these guys.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
This is revolutionary leftist evil. When you say it's okay to murder CEOs on the street, that is a call for revolution. The shooting of Thompson has unleashed a wave of evil from members of the left. Thompson was not a criminal.
Thompson was not a criminal.
They're now literally cheering for the cold-blooded killer accused of murder.
And a question popped into my head at that moment. When is it okay to celebrate a death, murder, so on? How bad does somebody gotta be before it becomes socially acceptable to like crip walk over their grave? To bring out one of these things at the funeral, you know? How bad do you gotta be for that? Let's explore this. I'm pretty sure there won't be any controversy. I've noticed there are a lot of, let's say, politically disengaged folks that seem to think the reason everyone loves Luigi is because he, like, killed a CEO. And, like, everyone hates those guys, right? Plus, like, healthcare, you know? No, Tyler, that is not the reason. People would not be dancing on the grave of Rosalind Brewer, the owner of Walgreens, if she was murdered. And yes, they sell medicine there. Nobody would be writing folk songs about the man if he had shot Mark Cuban, the owner of Cost Plus Drugs. And yes, he sells medicine. Not all CEOs are created equal. And not all killers are either.
Jeepers creepers, where'd you get those eyes?
Luigi Mangione is a, let's be honest, soon-to-be executed 26-year-old Baltimore man of Sicilian descent. Born into a powerful family of real estate developers, politicians, country club owners, and most importantly, CEOs. Despite being thoroughly set up to have a great life with excellent prospects, something happened in 2023. A pre-existing spinal condition was worsened by a back injury and landed him in the hospital on the surgeon's table for an extremely painful and invasive procedure. I am talking actual screws in your back. Following this traumatic experience, he became increasingly isolated from his friends and family. We don't know if the health insurance claim for that surgery was denied. But what we do know is that he started reading books on the disturbing practices of the health insurance industry, watching documentaries that compare the universal coverage of the majority of the world to the broken system of American privatization and hyper-individualism. November comes around and his family reports him missing, saying they haven't seen him since July. And then, 18 months after landing in the ER, at 6:44 in the morning, in front of the New York Hilton, this man committed the most high-profile murder of the 21st century. Who is this man? Well, he is a king in his own world. The dog-eat-dog world of private health insurance. The chief decision-maker of the largest company of its kind. But you know, there is this thing that happens to kings every once in a while.
You can be upset with a larger societal issue. It does not justify murdering
Well, I mean, I think that we should take it as a leading, bleeding-edge indicator that we are on the verge of something terrible. And once that can of violence is open, it is very difficult to close again.
It's disgusting. If you celebrate the death of an executive from a company whose policies you don't agree with, you're disgusting. You're inhumane. If you lack any empathy and are proud of that, or you feel joyful, you are inhumane. It is wrong.
It can only be stopped by a widespread rejection on all sides of the aisle for this type of violence.
You are inhumane. It is wrong. I don't care who it is, what political divide they come from, what the policies are. You don't execute people in the street and you don't get celebrated when you do that.
Whoa, 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 whoa. He wasn't a literal king, okay? His leadership position wasn't divinely ordained by some pope. This is the 21st century, right? This is America. And she is a meritocracy. The free marketplace of fucking ideas. So, let's take a look at some of the ideas that got Brian Thompson this gig.
Hi, I'm Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, and welcome to the attendees of Reuters Total.
See, there is a pitch involved in getting a job like this. You got to convince an entire board of directors that your vision for the company will please the shareholders the most. So what are some of the changes he's made to the company since taking over in April 2021? Well, there are 3 big ones, and spoiler alert, you already know them if you read the bullet casings. Number 1, deny by default. And where you cannot come up with a valid reason to deny, use AI to generate a valid reason.
Investments in modernization of legacy technology and new emerging technologies are enabling our consumer-centric advancement of healthcare. For example, our growing AI portfolio, made up of hundreds of practical use cases, will generate billions of dollars of efficiencies over the next several years.
Quick side note for anyone wondering exactly how sociopathic these people are. Efficiencies is the euphemism they use to refer to the act of denying medicine to sick people that paid into their insurance policy their entire career.
These investments enable us to improve consumer experience. We expect technology innovation to become an increasingly core driver of our growth over the next 2 to 5 years.
Rule number 2, where you cannot deny, delay. Not to get too morbid, but if your patient dies before they get the medicine they need, you don't have to pay out. And the best part about dead people, they can't sue you.
Our mission and values are focused on helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone.
If you argue enough, you can get everything you deserve.
While you die waiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the goal is that they outlive you, the insurance company, literally, as evil as it is to say, or that you won't want to jump through the hoops or don't know how to jump through the hoops, so they don't have to pay for it.
Rule number 3, where neither previous option is possible, take it to court. Hire your best crack legal team and depose the sick or injured individual, meaning question and undermine the validity of their claim until, out of sheer emotional exhaustion or simply lack of legal funds, they give up on that case. It's just good business. Line must go up.
Making the health system work better for everyone.
It's like the medical equivalent of the narcissist prayer. You know that pretty famous poem? Oh man, here's my impression of an insurance CEO sending out a mass email in 2028. Dear cherished policyholder, that injury did not happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's a pre-existing condition. And if it isn't, it was your own fault. And if it wasn't, we're experiencing delays at this time. And if we're not, I'll see your ass in court.
Our mission and values are focused on helping people live healthier lives.
Now, this might seem barbaric, but I cannot deny that it is good business. In that, the cash incentives that emerge when healthcare is not considered a human right will put every company on a path to this. And since it is the most recent step on that path, I want to focus in on this AI thing for a second. If you're not already sick of hearing about AI, it's about to get a whole lot worse. I'm sorry. There are, broadly speaking, 2 types of people in this world. The vast majority who are capable of empathy, and a small minority who are not. Pardon me. If your job is to minimize spending by denying every claim you can, what is your biggest obstacle? Human fucking empathy.
The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy.
But you have to hire a team of human beings to work these administrative jobs. I mean, someone has to review all these claims. And as human beings who are flawed, they have this pesky habit of having a moral compass. They see a heartbreaking story about a little boy fighting cancer and they think, oh my God, I can't deny this claim. My conscience won't allow it. If I were to doom this innocent child to a premature death just to make a line go up, I simply would not be able to sleep at night. But then along comes Brian Thompson on his white horse, and he is different from the others. He is a think outside the box kind of guy, and he is not like us. So he says, hey, automation, it's inevitable, it's the way of the future. Why shouldn't this job be automated too? And yeah, it's true, replacing a person with a machine will always save the company a few bucks. But that was not the core reason in this case. The main advantage of using AI to deny claims is so you don't have to look at him. This cleverly bypasses that obstacle. These types of guys have been trying for centuries to program their subjects to behave as soullessly as they do. And it usually doesn't work. People hit their breaking point and then they leave. But now, they have a cheat code. And it's making them get a little mask off with the misanthropy.
The fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. The empathy exploit. They're exploiting a bug in Western civilization, which is the empathy response. So, and I think
that inconvenient human empathy has finally been bypassed, replaced with cold, calculating, machine-like ruthlessness. Imagine being the parent of that sick child. You and your family doctor have been desperately emailing the insurance company for months about that expensive MRI that has to be taken before anything can be done. You're running out of time. He's looking more frail by the day. And then your rejection email arrives. It's formal, it's well-mannered and apologetic. And then a horrible feeling sinks in as it dawns on you. This letter was written by fucking ChatGPT.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
Remind me what Luigi majored in university? What's that? It was artificial intelligence? No fucking shit. This is why you don't have to take these guys seriously when they wring their hands and talk about empathy.
So to be clear, you don't have any empathy for him after he was executed?
I personally don't.
Right, okay, well at least you're honest. Let me go to Natalie Winters. I mean, I find this staggering. You've got to remember, the left is supposed to be the party that cares so much, and they can't even bring it in their hearts to say they find a shred of empathy for a man who's just been executed, who's the father of children, the husband of a loving wife, and so on. I find that just staggering. That you can't, on a human level, have empathy for the murder of someone.
This routine you're seeing is part of a tactic that Piers specifically has been honing since his tabloid days in the 90s. See, like Brian, they also have a three-pronged strategy to keep their pockets full, their audience outraged, and progress impossible. Number 1, misdirect.
Look over there!
Downplay the significance of the motives at play. The only way to win an argument when you're wrong is to avoid the actual issue at hand. And there are many different versions of this. You've got, Luigi's only popular because he's hot.
This extraordinary phenomenon of so many liberal women brazenly talking about the hot assassin, as if somehow the fact that he was good looking in some way is the most important aspect of this.
Nobody deserves to be shot and killed. Based on your looks, it's okay? I mean, it's absurd.
Luigi only shot him because he hates capitalism.
It turns out that it's about trying to threaten anyone who engages in free markets at all. This is simply Marxist, leftist, radical evil.
He's just a fringe headcase with a broken brain.
Not the person he executed.
Cold-blooded assassin. No one should be feeling empathy for him. He's a rich kid with a broken brain.
Totally agree.
Probably like you. Okay. A broken brain.
In recent months, he underwent some sort of serious health crisis, which was probably exacerbated by psychedelic use. Also, dudes, have you heard of Rosparks? This dual-action prescription merges the powerhouse ingredients found in generic Viagra and Cialis, sildenafil, and tadalafil into one formidable treatment. Find out if prescription Rosparks is right for you. Get $15 off your first order, not FDA approved, and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review.
Oh, this one's a classic that takes me way back. It's 'cause of video games.
It is scary to me that somehow the younger generation is not able to distinguish the difference between, say, a video game and the reality in the real life of somebody being killed.
Brian's policies don't break any laws.
You called it a crime, but it wasn't a crime. He wasn't a convicted criminal.
These are people that put way too much value on what is legal and not enough on what is fair. Putting aside the fact that some of the worst atrocities ever committed were 100% legal, drunk driving is a crime. Insider trading is a crime. Leaving out important details of your story to construct a narrative should be a crime.
But the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action. That law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow to social progress.
Okay, this last one is pretty straight to the point. It doesn't matter what Brian's done to you. Celebrating a murderer is just wrong.
Whatever you think about United Healthcare is irrelevant to the question of whether Brian Thompson should have been shot to death on the streets of New York.
It is wrong. I don't care who it is, what political divide they come from, what the policies are. You don't execute people in the street, and you don't get celebrated when you do that.
Wowzers. Referee Piers only sees the retaliation, huh? Don't worry about what Brian did. Simply pay attention to this preposterous response. No, don't Google it. It would interfere with my point.
That someone could be murdered in the middle of Manhattan who happens to be an executive for a healthcare company.
Yep, he just happens to be a health insurance executive. Clearly a coincidence. The theme of all of these clips is don't look at the thing, look at everything around the thing only. We do not discuss the thing. Number 2, wedge. A politically unifying event such as this is bad news for tabloid journalists and partisan hacks. So turn it into a left-right issue.
So this is the left wing in America, the new hero?
In addition to the fact that a lot of crazy, broken-brained left-wing women like Taylor Lorenz can't find any man, so they decide to get all turned on by assassins.
Some lunatic liberal women are bizarrely publicly drooling over what they perceive to be the hot assassin.
The radicalization of a generation, and we've got this assassination of a CEO, and it's true, and it's the left, of course, demonizing CEOs and success and obscene profits and all of that.
I don't think anybody's going to be crying too hard over that guy.
Yeah, maybe his family, but that's about it.
Yeah.
It's a dirty, dirty business. The business of insurance is fucking gross.
And most of these CEOs who are worth $100 billion are Democrats, of course.
You might think that there are limits to how far you can take this approach, but let's not forget that Tucker Carlson once invited his audience to be outraged that the green M&M is no longer sexy enough to fulfill his masturbatory needs.
M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous. Until the moment you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them. That's the goal. When you're totally turned off.
This compulsive categorizing of every issue into left or right is necessary to maintain the entertainment value of self-righteousness. But more importantly, it's essential in keeping people from recognizing that they are all getting screwed by the same handful of narcissistic oligarchs. I don't mean to sound like an enlightened centrist. There are certainly legitimate grievances between liberals and conservatives, but here's the key point. Wanting insurance companies to do their literal only job is not a left-wing opinion, and you should be highly suspicious of anyone telling you it is. Number 3, project. When all else fails, just flip it on people. AKA, whatever sneaky shit you're doing or planning on doing, accuse your opponent of it. It's not a new technique. It's called accusation in a mirror. Goebbels pioneered it. A Rwandan propagandist coined it. This guy's a fan of it. And it goes something like this. You guys are the ones who lack empathy. And you should be ashamed for feeling catharsis at seeing the man who was terrorizing you get put down.
It's disgusting. If you celebrate the death of an executive from a company whose policies you don't agree with, you're disgusting. You're inhumane. If you lack any empathy and are proud of that, or you feel joyful, you are inhumane. It is wrong. I don't care what the policies are.
Yes, you, father mourning for the preventable loss of his son at the hands of this man.
I had a daughter who is a stage 4 cancer survivor.
You're disgusting, cause, you lack empathy. Wow, Piers, your zen-like compassion for your fellow man is really coming through right now. Good job, buddy. I try not to repeat myself, so here's a clip from my previous video. Every accusation is a confession. The reason why I'm endlessly fascinated by this whole affair is that much like the sunglasses in They Live, it made clear who among us is an imposter, walking, talking, acting like one of us, while consolidating power for their masters behind the scenes. And this sloppy self-report happened because the paid actors that ride for the establishment as a full-time job, their hubris led them to make a very misguided assumption. And their audience's decades-long pattern of unquestioningly swallowing their propaganda was broken that day. When these double agents insisted that no, in fact, it is you, the outraged ordinary American, that is the real sociopath, not Brian.
You're disgusting. You're inhumane.
They accidentally underscored the gap between right-wing media and right-wing people. Understand that these three moves reinforce each other like a downward spiral. If people have been distracted from the issues that actually affect them,
They're eating the dogs.
then they're less likely to realize that they're being politically divided.
So
This is revolutionary leftist evil.
And if they feel estranged from their neighbor because of a perceived difference in values, they're more likely to believe dubious claims about them. And if they fall for the accusation in the mirror, they won't notice what's being done to them until it's too late. So when their attempt to project failed to convince people, and the attempt to misdirect failed to distract people, what happened was the wedge fell apart. I truly could not believe my eyes when I saw comment after comment under these videos. I'm not left and I hate the health insurance cartel. You are out of touch. Why are you saying left wing? I'm conservative and poor. I wouldn't have snitched on him even if I could have remained anonymous and collected the snitch reward money. Mr. President, it is sad that one man is dead, but it's even more terrible that thousands of children and elderly are denied health coverage by these health insurance companies. I hope that you can actually see beyond this unfortunate event and do something for the majority of people in this USA. I'm with the liberals on this one. The current healthcare system is disgusting. Brian Thompson gotta go, Mr. President. I'm sorry, even conservatives agree. Just because the left likes something doesn't mean you have to instinctively hate it. Wake up and read the room, bro. I'm not buying this left versus right shit anymore, Ben. I want healthcare for my family. According to Ben, I went from a Trump voter to revolutionary leftist in the span of a month. Right-winger here, you're wrong, Ben. This man denied 35% of claims. One was my dead parents' heart surgery we couldn't afford. He opted to die instead of give us the debt.
Okay, tyranny is not real in the case of healthcare in the United States.
You're wrong, Ben. I am that evil leftist you always rage about. I have an uncle who is as conservative as they come, voted for Trump and everything. We have very little in common and avoid each other at holiday parties. I can tell you we both wept when my dad slowly died of cancer while the insurance he paid for kept denying him life-saving care. We both saw the injustice in that. That same uncle is posting on Facebook right now about how he couldn't give a fuck about no CEO. Insurance companies kill millions of people a year, and they don't discriminate between leftists and conservatives. As someone right-leaning who used to like Ben, I'm gonna stop listening to this tool. This issue hurts us all. I'm a conservative and have been since I was a teenager. I will shed no tears for this man. As a conservative, I'm sick of rich elitists destroying the family unit. Quite literally. Sorry, Ben. Lifelong conservative and don't have an ounce of sympathy for the CEO. How many Americans have died because of this company's greed? Healthcare shouldn't be a choice between living and permanently being in crippling debt. Right-winger here, you're wrong, Ben. This man denied 35% of claims. The facts do not care about any of our feelings. Respectfully, I think this take was out of touch. Oh my god, the spell is breaking! Their minds are being freed! This is why I made this video. Because it's like, for one brief moment of class solidarity, left and right, woke, unwoke, all these things just disappeared. And we all just fucking hated this guy together. The poignant relatability of so many personal tragedies just broke through all these crusty talking points like water breaking a dam. It was beautiful. I don't know if I'm making clear the magnitude of this event. Farmers in Texas were talking like Noam Chomsky. This doesn't happen. This is not supposed to happen. But it did. And to their own bewilderment, these figures were essentially bullied by their own audiences into dropping the matter altogether. What?
This person was murdered. He had a wife, he had kids, he was a family. Nobody.
This guy's a husband, he's a father.
This guy was a husband and a father.
He's the father of children, the husband of a loving wife, and so on.
I really wish all the talking heads who kept saying stuff like that had paid a bit more attention to how fast and how easily United Health replaced Brian with another cog in the machine and just moved on with their day. That truly is the irony all these people miss. This man was shot while on the way to a shareholders meeting. And the meeting commenced as planned. That's how little they gave a shit! It's almost like the people working at the top level of this industry have a ghoulish disregard for human life. Leopard? Meat face. This might sound like a weird take, but I actually believe that these two have more empathy for Brian Thompson than Piers does, despite them saying they have none. What Piers wants is for you to say, "Our thoughts and prayers to Brian Thompson," and then close the matter. His solution is entirely verbal and actually has more to do with presenting himself as the voice of reason of his show than it does making the world a better place. Sensationalism pays his bills. Why would he be interested in avoiding further tragedies? Whereas, what these guys essentially said is, Piers, the grieving families cheering this guy's death are so numerous and so beleaguered by lifelong medical debt that if they don't see sweeping systemic change at some point, someone's gonna do this again. It's literally inevitable. So you tell me who cares more about the Brian Thompsons of the world? The thoughts and prayers people? Or the let's actually remove the incentive for further shootings people? Now, inevitably, some people in the comments are going to say that I am personally advocating for this man's murder. So let me make myself clear, officer. Though I am shedding no tears for this man, I myself am not celebrating anything. I think everything surrounding this murder is an inevitable yet tragic state of affairs, and to be honest, doesn't really put me in a partying sort of mood. But then again, I am one of the privileged few that has not been victimized by these companies. But genuinely, if you're an open-minded person that's just sincerely baffled by people's support of Luigi and are thinking these Gen Z college students have lost their mind, let me present you with a different framing of this phenomenon. Hello, it's me, Professor Q, and today I'd like to illustrate what I'll call a spectrum of acceptability. Just to provide a frame of reference for this whole debate on when it is justified to applaud a death. On the extreme end, you got your typical examples. Genocidal maniacs like Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. Peak evil, ninth circle of hell. They are traitors to their species, and no one is gonna criticize you for celebrating their death. I mean, the whole world was organizing parades and dancing with joy in the streets. And crucially, it was not considered political to do so. Few degrees less than that, and you've got your smaller time murderers that were unprovoked. Your Bundy, Dahmer, or Gacy. Their victims were innocent, and the killings were done purely for their own enjoyment. And again, no one is gonna bat an eye if you say, "I'm glad this psychotic cannibal is dead." But it is a teensy bit political to say, I think they should be executed by the state. We are only at the second tier and we've already hit controversy. Third tier down and we've arrived at war criminals that were kinda provoked, depending on how far you want to zoom out in time. Your Osama bin Ladens, Saddam Husseins, they are still monstrous people. Their victims in 9/11 and Dujail were innocent and not done for their own enjoyment. But there's such a history of political violence just around them, to the point that radicalization, extremism, and by extension, more political violence are pretty predictable and kind of inevitable.
By the way, if you're angry because you think I've just said something positive about Saddam, I invite you to take it up with this man.
Next step down is a tough one. We're in the deep water now. Figures who, yes, are technically violent criminals responsible for many deaths, but who were provoked, and their retaliation was actually against the initial offender. Not innocent bystanders like these guys. This tier is where the lines between dangerous terrorist and revolutionary freedom fighter start to blur. And whether you're celebrating their deaths hinges on your personal politics. Now, the examples for this tier are about to upset a lot of people, probably both sides of the aisle. I don't know. You ready? Everyone take a deep breath. Class, in for 4. George Washington, Che Guevara. Times like these, I'm glad I don't have Twitter. Now, we are looking at two figures that both successfully fought a revolutionary war for independence from an oppressive regime. If you were British in the 18th century, or God forbid, black or indigenous, George Washington was a dangerous terrorist. And if you were Cuban in the 60s, Che Guevara was, well, George Washington. But if you grew up learning the American curriculum, one's image has been deliberately scrubbed and the other deliberately muddied. Hence, the controversy. The point I'm trying to make is that the culture you grow up in determines the political rhetoric you hear your entire life. And the rhetoric you're used to determines who you think deserved what they got.
To the Greeks, he was Alexander the Great. But to my Persian ancestors, he was Alexander the fucking asshole.
Now, back to this guy. We need a new category name for Brian. How about Gen Z poli-sci majors are the loudest about it, but your conspiracy uncle is also weirdly okay with this guy getting shot.
Free Luigi!
I should probably shorten that. That is the most jarring thing that happened in December. There was a shift in the culture, and everyone got moved a couple notches higher on the acceptability spectrum. The miscalculation that these guys made happened because their sheltered existence blinds them to people's growing desperation.
If you happen to be a homeowner, the same way that I am,
and as times get more desperate, people grow more open to violence.
You get what you fucking deserve!
It is the language of the unheard.
And hey, while we're talking MLK quotes, check out this certified hood banger from 1966. Health injustice is shocking and inhuman, huh? Looks like Marty's got a case of the old woke mind virus.
Now, for this final example, we're not going to look at who got killed. We're going to look at who did the killing. Bear with me, this is a thought experiment. Former slaves fighting in the Civil War to seize their own liberation. Well, they're killing Confederates, right? It's illegal, right? They weren't allowed to just run away from the plantation. That's actually why cops were originally invented. Some of those Confederates probably had families, right?
This guy was a husband and a father.
Anyone? Go ahead. Someone tell me that it's not alright to cheer on those murders. Anyone? Benny boy, you got something you want to say?
Revolution to overthrow tyranny is justified, but...
So you guys are in favor of murdering fellow Americans as long as the political cause is righteous enough. If the stakes at hand are human rights. Is that safe to say? So the purpose of this chart is to propose this. If you believe that political assassinations are justified when done in the name of human rights, but not here, you might not really believe that healthcare is a human right. Consider the fact that some people's image is scrubbed clean and others deliberately muddied. And with that in mind, is it possible, maybe, that the media leverages that ability to decide for you which deaths are mourned and which deaths are celebrated? I truly do not intend this as some kind of gotcha. I'm actually hoping that watching this makes people interrogate their own values a little bit. Because I don't know about y'all, but mine used to be atrocious. Everyone has a personal line in the sand. a threshold of evil past which it is justified to spit on a man's grave. Mussolini was shot, spat on, dragged through the streets, had his upside-down corpse strung up in a public square so that the crowd could throw stones at it, and after all they'd been through, no one had the heart to stop them. I'm willing to bet that a lot of you have someone in your personal life who's crossed this line. And then, all the way down the spectrum of evil, past the serial killers and past the Hollywood sex pests, past the people who talk in the movie theater, at some point, we arrive at Brian. And it's true, Brian had a wife. Sorry, not that Brian. I meant this one. $100 raised out of 10,000. Oh, sorry, I got mixed up. I meant this Brian. 1,200 raised out of 12K. Ah, sorry, wrong one again. Here we go. 3,500 raised out of $20,000. Well, I hope he's okay. There is an innate tendency people have to measure tragedy in terms of loss of innocence. It's why movie viewers frequently feel more sadness at a fictional dog's death than a person's. And it's why children dying is just inherently more sad than adults. And this is, I believe, the biggest dividing line in the country regarding how this assassination was perceived. The difference between the people idolizing Mangione and the people calling for the electric chair.
The shooter in this case, we can only hope, is arrested and should be given the death penalty.
CEOs, politicians, pundits, they just see a death. A senseless, inexcusable, context-free death. But I, and others like me, see Luigi as a young man whose innocence was lost on December 4th. A man who went from a bright and promising engineering student to a killer on death row, watching from a jail cell as Trump signs the order to have him executed. But when Brian died, no innocence was lost. Just a life. And which is more tragic? Well, don't ask me. Ask them.
Oh, wait. You probably can't. There are a few things we can expect to see over the coming months. We will see the media try to scrub this event of meaning, try to suppress the inescapable reality that Brian Thompson may very well have been the Franz Ferdinand of a looming class war. And that really is the only thing that can scare these people. You know what they're not scared of at all? A culture war. Yes, go ahead, they say. Publish a 6-hour video on why mermaids should be white. Maybe I'll put it on in the background while I'm on my way to abolish a labor union. Go ahead. Sew a pink little hat to protest sexism and sell it on Etsy. Maybe I'll wear one while I overturn Roe v. Wade. Let's be clear, these people know they're parasites, and they do not care. The pain and suffering of others does not even make them look up from their newspaper. But there is one thing that gets their attention every time. That's right. You know where this is going. Class solidarity. You thought I was gonna say getting shot at, huh? Well, that probably does get their attention for a second. But then they told their personal assistant to double security and moved on with their day. But what they didn't expect was the public's reaction.
Many people are sympathizing with him online. The McDonald's, where he was apprehended, has been hit with a flood of one-star reviews, calling the employees snitches and rats.
It's the Robin Hood that we never knew that we needed.
I listened to Luigi's manifesto this morning 3 times and I cried. Honestly, it's beautiful and I agree with him.
I think he'll go down as a hero in history.
Regular everyday person becoming our hero, our vigilante.
These types of comments angering law enforcement and public officials.
I don't care your views about healthcare companies. You do not celebrate the assassination of another human being who is just doing his job.
He is no hero. The real hero in this story is the person who called 911 at McDonald's.
Health over wealth! I've had somebody on the floor fainting, on the verge of dying, begging, please don't call an ambulance because my family cannot afford it. Do you know what it is to have somebody in so much pain and only thinking my family cannot afford it. Denying people in their most vulnerable moments.
I got the same back surgery as Luigi. I can't sleep. I can't do anything without medication. Myself, I'm about to be homeless. I lost everything.
When the elites see people cheerleading violent vigilante justice, when they see people starting to reject propaganda, when they see $300,000 has been donated to Luigi's legal fund, when they see billboards, graffiti, folk songs, fan mail, murals, when they see a potential copycat killer, when they find out Luigi is a child of privilege, one of their own, that he could have grown up to be Eric Trump, but instead grew up to be this guy, then they really start sweating. Every day that passes, the public grows a little warmer on the idea that tearing these people down is not a misplaced act of revenge, but a preventative form of self-defense. And what is their counter strategy to this shift in attitude? Desperate attempts to strip the event of meaning. Guys, he was mentally ill. Right?
Mental illness at play. It has to be.
He's just a radical leftist who hates successful people, right? Right? Nobody likes this guy, okay? He's gonna go to prison and his fellow prisoners are gonna turn his life into a living hell. Right? Hi, Kathy. Tell the moderator teams to delete pro-Luigi posts. People keep calling him handsome. This is getting ridiculous. Yes, all of them. No more goddamn thirst posts. No, the ones about Dahmer can stay. It's not working. All right, just kill him. That's it. That's my video. I hope you liked it, and I will leave you on this thought. If you are listening to someone condemn Luigi without triple condemning Brian's actions, you are listening to someone tell you that rich people's lives matter more than poor people's lives. Just like the feudal times, you kill a nobleman, you have to give his family your best horse. Kill a slave, bag of flour. The people with that ancient worldview still exist, and they're just walking around among us, working at the bank, working at United Health. And you know who really hates that philosophy? My guy JC. Tell him how it is, J-Dog. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God.